minutes past 7. It's a Thursday, so you know you should be with Mind Your Own Business, MYOB for short, for the latest and up-to-date expert opinions and advice on all things to do with a business, right across the board. Main subject this evening, Sharon, I know you're on a remote broadcast out there waiting to be awarded, I hope, with a couple of very prestigious, I should say, business awards. So you'll be joining us for the first part, and then obviously you have to cut out when you have to cut out to go and get the awards that you'll be in. And I must say, a very pretty dress as well. I
Thank
really
you.
like it. I will play us out with something like Lady in Red.
Okay.
Now, our three guests this evening, before Sharon, you dive in with the first heavyweight question and I cause trouble. Our three guests this evening are all experts in their individual fields and have a wealth of knowledge which will benefit us all. So we're here to ask the questions, and the answers will be supplied by, as I said, our three guests. So rather than me waffle on and introduce them, best to introduce themselves. So first up on the roster, let's say Andy Duncan. Good evening.
Good evening, and hello to everybody. So my name's Andy Dunkley. I'm a business doctor from Milton Keynes. I work with businesses from 1 to 50 million turnover primarily, and I'm really helping business owners drive strategic change and value in their business. So really driving for something exceptional, growing their business, growing their sales, growing their team, and really pushing their business on. And obviously marketing and the use of marketing is a prime area, a tool that they use to really help their business and get their business growing. Primarily all of my clients are looking at significant growth over the short and longer term.
Okie dokie, great. And our second guest, search engine optimization expert and marketing guru, James Pybus. James.
Hello there, and good evening to everyone. So my name is James Pybus. I've been in digital marketing now for, I can't quite believe I'm saying this, 27 years.
Our third guest this evening is Jeremy Duncan. Good evening, Jeremy.
Good evening, Stuart. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Jeremy Duncan. I'm partner and brand strategy director in a brand consultancy called Reggie London, based in the centre of London, you can imagine. Yeah. And our work really includes everything from brand strategy and identity research, etc., to the creation of multi-channel communications, like including sort of things like video and advertising, but the whole range. But I'm also marketing chair for the Institute of Directors in London, and have been heavily involved in, and Stuart, you know this, in setting up the recently launched IOD Marketing Communications Group that we're now looking to roll out across beyond.
Okay, that's good. Jeremy, I think your internet connection is slightly wonky at the moment, I think. I'm not too sure, but it's always worth mentioning that during the program, anything else outside of operating your laptop or your mobile should be switched on. Our equipment is very sensitive and it picks up all kinds of things. That being said, we will press on regardless, I'm pretty sure. Sharon, you're in the front line this evening as you've got a limited time with us. So you come up with the third question and I'll lob the hand grenades at everybody.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. First of all, apologies if you can hear some background noise. I will go on mute in a moment. I will start my first question actually with you, Andy. Can you actually talk me through how, because you've been talking about growth strategies, how we could use AI to actually help through how AI can use the analytics to transform the way businesses approach the market and expansion strategies, so their growth strategies. Sorry, my sound is really bad here.
It's okay. So I think firstly, AI is not going to take something that's a disaster and you're just going to create a magic wand and it's going to suddenly sell. So I think number one, you have to have a clear business beneath it. You have to be authentic. You have to know what you're doing. And one of the things to really make sure that you're doing with AI and my view on AI and the world and Google, Google do this, yes, to help sell. Yes, they want to expand your business, but they want to make as much arbitrage out of that as possible. So the AI guys are promoting you. They get paid if you get seen. And effectively, that's Google's business model. So there's a balance between promoting, getting out there, getting that, and how much you're paying. So it can accelerate that, and it can really push your SEO. It can push your paid adverts. It can push all of those things. You've got to make sure that you know when you're putting your foot on the accelerator and when you're not, and how much it's costing you. Otherwise, that AI will drain your cash balance quicker than you can say Jack Flash. And that's the key thing on this. Is it's a tool. It's a great tool, and it will help. And I think these things will get better and better. But you've got to make sure you know where you want to get to, and how much you are prepared to spend, and how to use it.
Okay, but I think the key thing about that, Andy, if I can quickly chime in, is the key thing there is that AI can help. Too many people, I think, in this day and age, and AI is very new, think that AI is going to take over. I don't think it will, because I think it can only be as good as the people allow it to be good for their businesses.
And it's absolutely, you've got to know what you want to get out of it. I've got a fantastic client who uses Google, who uses paid. He's getting in trade customers for the first time. He then loves them. He gives them lots, and they're just phoning him going forward. And actually he uses it as almost a lost leader to get profitable clients in to his business. He's paid the Google spend, and now he's getting an ongoing profitable revenue stream from them. And he absolutely loves it. It's a conveyor belt of customer acquisition. That works. That's a fantastic business. If you're using it to just be commodity and sell there, the people that will win will be Google, and they'll take all your cash. So the AI is fantastic, and it will help you, but be careful what you want to wish for. Do you want to sell lots, or do you want to gain customers, and all of those things behind? And I think it's super important you know where your business is heading and what you want out of it before you get down there.
Okay, Jeremy, I can see you nodding in that. Is that an agreement?
Yeah, Andy, I think you're absolutely right. What I think, from coming from a sort of creative agency background, is that one is able to use AI, and it's really very, very exciting in being able to target, segment, etc. So when we're running campaigns, we can really get to the people we want to get to, and far more efficiently than we ever could before, which is really exciting. But also, we should be able to use it to enhance the customer experience and the relationship we have with our customers.
Well, how's it going to do that?
Because it allows us to know more about them, and to be able to really, as I say, define our messaging and personalize our messaging to different people, and different behaviors, different types of people, and that allows us to be far more effective in what we do, I think.
Okay.
Potentially. I mean, there are worries, Stuart, with this as well, but on the whole, I think it's I think there's some exciting stuff out there.
Okay. James, while Sharon's coughing, James?
I think, generally speaking, when people think of AI, the first thing they think of is ChatGPT. First of all, I really don't like the name at all, personally speaking, because I've got dyslexia, and every time I say ChatGPT, I have to think about it. So I'm not quite sure why they called it that, but there's another thing. But obviously there's lots of different types of AI that can help you. So there's image generators. If you go onto our website, the front page, rather than having a picture of me on there, there's actually an AI video maker where you can choose your avatar. You type in your text, and the avatar will actually speak that text to you, which I think is amazing technology. And on our website, we've actually got ChatGPT actually integrated as our chatbot. So a lot of people think that, it's going to be, you can ask it lots of questions, but in fact, actually, it's gathered the data from your website. And so you can put in things like, what services do you offer? And it will actually take the data that's directly from your website. So I think it's quite interesting how people see all this stuff. How we use ChatGPT is mainly, first of all, with our content. So what we'll do is we'll do a lot of keyword research. We'll identify, maybe questions and keyword phrases that we should have within the content so that we can use that within our linking strategies. And so I think that's a big part of it. The conference that you were talking about in Milton Keynes, I know there was somebody on there who basically said we won't all necessarily need to work in the future, and I thought that was a bit of an odd thing to say, because I don't think
you can call it odd. I'd call it stupid.
Yeah, opinion. But ultimately, I've got young children. I'm thinking to myself, well, if they don't have to work, what are they going to do? How do you direct your young people? And I'm thinking to myself, well, the obvious thing for me is to say, be a plumber or be an electrician, because I'm thinking, how is AI going to be able to do those jobs? So, it's just a massive, massive field. You talk about artificial intelligence and what it can do. It is amazing.
Yeah, go on, Sharon.
So James, can I ask you, you're saying about AI, what about the more mundane tasks? Is that something that we can use for AI just to get away the everyday tasks? Because that takes up so much time.
Well, hang on a second, James, before you go in on that, and Sharon, let me ask you a question. There is a difference between artificial intelligence and AI and robotic. Robots can repeat tasks time after time after time, linked to AI.
Yes, but I'm thinking more with AI, you can use it as part of your brand strategy. So basically, it'll start to tell a story and it'll keep building on that story for your clients. So actually, it'll take a lot of the work away from you, but in some cases, that could be considered as the main mundane.
But that's a flat story. What happens to the creativity, the emotional input, all that kind of stuff? Anybody can generate something to do a flat story, for God's sake. But where's the human? I mean, people do business with people. I've heard you say that.
I think you have to, with the AI, you have to put a lot of content and heart into it to get something out of it.
Okay. What do you think about that, Jeremy?
Well, I think there's two things there, Sharon. You're absolutely right. In a way, some would say it gets rid of all the boring stuff. So we never, as a creative agency, we never have a blank sheet of paper. We've got research that we can draw upon very quickly. Yeah. We can create mood boards. As James said, image generation is just amazing and whatever. But it is worrying that the creativity aspect sometimes is lacking, but it should allow us to do more of the exciting work. But it is a bit of a dilemma at the moment, and I agree. And when you were saying about putting people out of work and whatever, I was talking to somebody the other day, who would be a copywriter these days, But having said that, if you read ChatGPT and you create something at the moment, you can tell it's written by AI.
But Jeremy, as the system
but it's going to become more and more. It's going to become better and better.
Yeah, absolutely, and then there'll be no differentiation. So as well as things like leading to job losses, Andy, let me bring this on you. AI could well work for the negative side, which is a case of manipulation and deceiving consumers and customers.
So I do think that is an absolutely massive issue that I've got to be careful how I say it. Our politicians have not grasped this at all. They've really not understood that our criminals out there are using AI to scrape people's data, to share it, put it on the dark web, and really get out there. And if you ever have a fraud and try and get onto action fraud, those are the guys that should be using a bit of AI to try and report it and get these things done far quicker, because our government, our police, the amount of fraud going on is endemic. And those guys are using AI, and we are not using our AI to prevent that happening. And if we're not careful, we're just way behind, and people are going to use, how often, all those bank checks that we have, actually trying to transfer money out of your bank account now is almost like a disaster. I tried to make a transfer out. I had 3 calls to my bank, checking over the other stuff. Actually, yes, I do want to make this, but the level of fraud and AI is massive. We are not using, as a society, our politicians are not using AI to prevent that negative use of it. I'd absolutely agree. Yeah.
Okay, I'd just like to mention the fact that with Sharon being at the awards, she's been called, so obviously we hope it's good news. So she's off, so it's just left to the four of us to chew on this. So I want to throw this grenade at you all as well. Is I understand and I've read that AI can do great things for brands, marketing campaigns, segmentation, and God knows what else. But on the other side of the coin, and it depends how, there's two sides to a coin, depends how thick the coin is, I suppose. But could AI lead to decrease in the trust in your brand? Oh, that's killed that. This is going to be a short program.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I think there is an issue there, and being authentic is absolutely a center of a brand, and it builds, as you say, the trust. And the work we do is very much about that sort of emotional bond you build with your audience, your customers, whatever it is, and that sort of emotional intelligence sometimes is I think lacking. I don't know. It's such a dynamic and moving thing, isn't it? I mean, AI. James is probably the best one to sort of talk about this, but AI is just moving exponentially, isn't it? It's developing exponentially. So you might say something now about what can and can't be done, and what the negatives of, what isn't, how you can spot AI as opposed to normally written stuff and whatever. But you might not be able to do that in a few years. It is a little bit worrying that it's taking away the emotional.
James?
I actually use, like I said, I do use GPT for prompts. I use that for blogs, any sort of tweets. So you can do like, write me 25 tweets up to 280 characters. Use this as the title. Use these keywords within it, and link to this product.
But your experience, you obviously, if you ask it for that, James, right, you obviously ask it for that, but you have a look. You don't just blindly publish it.
No, absolutely, 100%. You should never, ever in a million years be copying content directly from ChatGPT and putting it straight onto your website. It is only a first draft. Yeah. And when it comes to things like, I'm quite interested in what Jeremy does actually, because the way that he uses graphics, I don't know what you're using. You're using something like Mid-Journey or something like that, I suspect. So for me, in the digital marketing world, one of the optimization points is actually the alternative text, the alt text, as we call it. So Google can't see what an image is. Yeah, you have to tell it what the image is. So for me, I'm looking at this, things like Mid-Journey and thinking, at the moment, makes no difference to me because Google can't see what that image is. So all I need to do is tell it what the image is. So it could be a picture of a baby, and I could call it digital marketing, and it would assume that it's something to do with digital marketing. So it's kind of like, I'm just wondering, how advanced is the graphic programs going to get? Will it suddenly be able to recognize, make me a donkey with pig ears and a pig's tail or something? I don't know, but I don't know where that's going at all. I think Andy was saying about the politicians. I think so many people just don't understand it really.
Probably the primary up in the top of that list are the politicians.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just think that people just do not understand, and people are quite shocked when I show them. For example, write me a blog post with this. Use 100 words or whatever it is. Don't use H2 and H3. Don't use the word introduction, conclusion, chapter, because all this stuff, you're going to know it's ChatGPT straight away. And so you can actually prompt it to actually remove this stuff to make it sound better. And when I show people that, they go, wow, that's absolutely amazing. But that's just touching the surface of the possibilities are pretty much endless, I think. And it is frightening to think, where on earth is this all going to end? You see these movies where robots take over the world. Is that possible?
I don't know.
How far are people going to take it? How far are they going to allow the AI?
Well, what we do know about, and history has taught us this, I think, to a great extent, particularly in business, that people often look, well, more often than look, for the easy option. So you get an SI, and I'm interested in your comments on this, Andy, is you get all the positive things from AI, and they can do personalizations, they can do things like automations, they can target, they can measure, they can do everything. Their creativity can only be as good as the people that are operating it. But the tendency is, because people are inherently lazy, right, think, well, AI is there. Why do I have to worry? I can hit deadlines by just putting in a few parameters and let them get on with it. And whatever they say, we're going to use or recommend to a client. I think that's a downward spiral rather than being positive for the future. What say you, Andy?
Yeah, so I think, and I find this whole subject fascinating. AI is finally reaching into creative writing, and the creatives amongst us are starting to get nervous, and they're starting to go through there. And the last thing I want to read is something incredibly boring. But if I'm a boring copywriter at the moment, I'd be incredibly nervous, because actually a machine can write better boring copy, technical data than I can myself. So there's a great challenge there, I think, about making copy relevant, interesting. If it's technical and boring, actually just give it to the machine. And actually, so anybody in that area that's not really adding value and is just regurgitating stuff is going to be in trouble, I think, because the machine learning is going to be far better at it than they are. So I think the challenge always on this to the creative guys is, what's your difference? Are you adding value, or are you just adding a regurgitation? So I think AI is a fantastic opportunity to keep creatives. I've got to be careful how I say this with creatives on this show. It keeps them on their mettle, because if you're not adding value and you're not getting there, then I'll use the machine.
Okay, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, Andy, yeah, you got a good point. And as I said before, it's if we get rid of the boring stuff, actually we should have more time to be creative. But then, let's look at this. What's commerce about? And then let's go back to what Stuart was saying, because actually people are lazy, but they're not only that, are they willing to pay the extra for the creative to do the refining, curating, and giving that embellishment to the grunt that's being done by AI? And that worries me a bit. That does. And it's, I'm excited in one way, but I'm concerned in another. And certainly at the moment, you need us. You need the creatives to make the AI sing. Yeah.
But the question is there, Jeremy. That begs the question. Yeah, but for how long? Yeah,
well, that's my worry. And as I say, the development of AI has been exponential over the last 2 or 3 years. Let alone and what's it going to be in the next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So my point is this. I mean, you're all obviously more than aware of AI's capabilities, and we're learning all the time. But the crunch comes is, when is enough to maintain that human creativity, the human contact, the human interface with your businesses, with your clients, and even the team you're working with. How do you control AI and move the temptation by people you're working with, leaving it all to AI and presenting it as their ideas? I mean, how do you control it? James, how do you control power?
I don't think you can. I don't think there is a limit. We're going to have to work out where that is. But there's a certain bit. I think it's. You just look at the kids now; they're all writing AI to write their exams and get their homework done, and it puts you on your mettle, because actually, as a boss, as a leader, as a creative, you've got to be on the money to make sure your team are not just regurgitating that stuff, because at some point you're going to get busted by SEO, by the search engines coming through, or by just humans going, I'm bored of this stuff. I don't want that. I want something different. I want something that's got some personality and some is alive to me, and I feel like I'm connecting. So I think that'll always be the challenge. But there's always going to be better AI, better right, more personal, more coming at everybody. So it's going to be out there. And
you're right. I mean, because my business is all about personality. When you said personality, that's exactly what it is. And in making a brand we work on very distinct from the competition, and that gives greater value to the brand, etc. But there's going to come a day when you can feed all that information in. I can do all the work, the brand strategy work, tone of voice guidelines, etc., the brand identity itself, push it all into AI, and then it will become personalized to that brand, specific to that brand. And that's a bit worrying at the moment. I think, we're talking about ChatGPT and whatever. Everything is, it's homogenized. It's vanilla, but
but we're in a situation at the moment, I think, that the general consumer out there, i.e. clients, businesses or otherwise, don't fully understand the capabilities or how companies using AI can control its use at the moment. And the problem is I was reading in Marketing Week, I think it was the week before last, that they were saying is that if customers lose the trust in the way business is using AI, they are less likely to engage with their marketing message. If a consumer believes that data is being used without their consent, and this brings in all sorts of things about how they give consent for their details to be used, so they can be targeted specifically about certain services, certain products. If they don't trust the brand because all they see behind it is AI, how do you educate your customers? I think it's a big question, and it's something that we've got to look at for now, because in a couple of years' time, AI is going to move on to such an extent that people are going to sit there and say, I'll get message after message after message through AI. And they don't have my permission to use my information.
So I do think that's a massive point. So if you look at the illegal criminals taking data and harvesting it and then using AI, that's what they're doing. They can't keep it. GDPR doesn't apply if you've nicked a load of personal data, does it? All of that stuff doesn't apply. So I think
because AI doesn't respect or have any idea of the consumer's privacy.
So I think as we go forward, actually who controls your data, how that's used is massive, massive, massive. And you'll see brands that will fall because their data gets harvested on people and it's used in the wrong way, and people will fall off brands very quickly, because they'll go, well, hold on, it's not just about my credit card. All of my personal lifestyle has now been exposed to somebody else, and they're using it in a manner that I'm not comfortable with. And I think that's going to be real dangers if brands get it wrong, real opportunities if you get it right, because how much I want to share of my data is important to me, and that's a personal decision. But that data share now is going to be huge, because the more data somebody has about me there, my life buying and what I've got out there. If you ever do a request on Google or see some of those requests of how much data they actually hold, it is enormous just about you. So these things are going to be super important, I think.
Okay. All right. James, do you want to come in on that?
Well, all I was going to say was, I believe it was a couple of days ago, 3-4 days ago, they brought out a new version of ChatGPT 4 Turbo, and it was always I think it was something like September. All the data that it had was up till September 2019 or something like that. I can't remember the date exactly. 3 days ago, it was updated, and now it's available from up until April 2023. And that is the speed at which that's grown. And all these problems that we see, I'm just wondering if there's going to be more problems than you can actually fix. I mean, surely this is just going to be a massive nightmare, massive headache. And I've just got, I know I'm here to answer the questions, but I'm actually thinking, does anyone here have any idea how they're gonna monitor this? How
control it?
In charge of it? Yeah, who's going to control what's happening?
Yeah, who's going to be answerable?
I think they've already lost control. Whoever's in charge they've already lost it. Surely, I don't really. Yeah, I don't really. It's a very scary thought. I'm probably not supposed to say that I am here to answer the questions, but that is my honest view is, where the heck are we going and who's going to control all this stuff? There's enough fraud out there already. Surely it's only going to grow. But
our business getting unduly concerned about these issues this early into AI, because it is relatively new field. And the big question is who and how is it going to be controlled? Certainly not by the politicians. They're not capable.
I think a lot of people, can I just say that, there's a lot of people who will look at the doom and gloom side of everything, but when you twist that around, it probably is helping in medicine. So it has its benefits as well.
Yeah. That's agreeable. It's not a case of doom and gloom. It's a case of caution and responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Companies that use AI have a huge level of responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, the things that we're doing with it are just very, very simple. We're not even skimming the surface on what a lot of these people are doing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd agree. But part of the problem is that, Stuart, your point, people don't understand it. I mean, through the IOD, we put out surveys about this, and what do people want to discuss at the moment? It's AI and its impact on all the different sectors, but marketing and communications being huge, and we've really got to develop. And as you rightly say, it's about you have big data, you have big responsibilities in how you handle it, but how it can be controlled is worrying, because it's moving so quickly. People don't understand enough now about it. Even professionals, in a way, using it. It's a frightening thing, and for a government to get itself around it, I just don't think it's going to happen. It's got to be self-regulated, and that
is a recipe for
all sorts of
complete disaster.
Sorry?
Yeah.
That is a recipe for complete disaster.
Absolutely.
Like all self-regulated bodies. What do you reckon, Andy?
So I think, I'm going to be old school now and go old-fashioned. People have to start being aware of their own data, their own breadcrumbs they're leaving, and how they share this. So I don't think, we all need to go into a nuclear bunker and cut off the internet and hide from it. But people have got to start to go, actually, what am I doing with my data? How am I sharing it? What breadcrumbs am I leaving? And people have really got to start to take an interest in their own data, because if you're leaving all of these breadcrumbs around, it's going to be picked up. It will inevitably be picked up by somebody who's got an unlawful need or a marketing need. So actually, you've got to be super careful in all of that data about how you're sharing it. Start to look at some of that information on your data consents, and really thinking about, where is my data? Where are my passwords held? Where is all this stuff held? What am I showing? How am I doing this? And I think we have to, as consumers, as people, we have to start thinking about, actually, where is our data? How is it stored? I'm going to start to really be very, very careful with it.
I can see you nodding about that, Jeremy.
Well, no, I'm absolutely. But I was going to ask Andy, how can we educate people, because a lot of people don't understand about it, and we're the professionals here, and we've probably got a lot to learn about protecting our own data and what we do and how we, journey around the metaverse or whatever. Maybe it is government and its campaigns and its education to the
I think it's a huge question, and I think government will be slow on it. I think as consumers, we've got to start to ask our brands, and the brands have got to start to say clearly how they use that data. Because actually, if I'm shopping on, I don't know, a large supermarket and it's steering me to one brand versus another brand, actually, I'm quite comfortable with that because it might give me a better selection. And I'm fully aware that actually they're trying to sell me something. I know that. The issue is, are they using that data outside of that remit? How are they using it? That's when I start to get a bit more concerned. Are they sharing it with somebody else? So somebody else might know what brand of baked beans I like. So it's that sort of information we need to start to think about as a consumer. And brands start to think about, actually, this is how I use your data, and this is what I use it for. And
can we trust, Andy, can we trust the brands to be transparent about that?
I don't think we can yet, but I think in time they're going to have to learn they have to be trusted. Otherwise, people will just not share that data with them. And I can think, I'll give you another example. I can think of a large supermarket now that has a loyalty card and is almost doing punishment pricing if you don't use that loyalty card, so they can collect your data. And some things like that, I think, are absolutely unacceptable. And I think consumers will start to vote with their feet. And I think the government has to start voting with their feet, because if you think about it, can I harvest your data by you having a loyalty card? If not, I'm going to price you. That's going to be unacceptable behaviour, I think, as we develop a society. It's just not right. If I don't want to share my data with you, I don't want to share my data with you.
But what's the chance of you being given the opportunity to opt out?
I was going to say that. The problem is it's not just one supermarket chain. They're all doing it. They're all starting to do it now. And therefore, we don't have a choice. We have to go along, and we have to either play, a third on top.
I got a bit annoyed, and I was in a bit of a grumpy old man with a certain brand, and I was getting some lunch, and I realised I'd overpaid by £1.50 because I didn't have a certain loyalty card. So I asked for the manager, and they were like, "What?" I said, "No, I want to speak to the manager now, please." And he came down, and I just said to him, "Do you think that's really acceptable? Do you think?" And he was like, "Oh, this is what head office says we've got to do." I said, "Oh, that's not about head office. Do you think it's acceptable?" Because those store managers have got to start to be, I'm getting distracted by my customers, I'm getting pulled in on that. And until we as consumers, I felt good about it for about 5 minutes, then I realised he's not going to do anything with it. But I did feel that, I'm starting to get some pain barrier on doing this, and I refuse to take that loyalty card because I just feel like I don't want to share my data.
Okay, that's fair enough. Do you want to chime in on that, James, before we move to another area?
I was just going to try and turn it around to the good things about AI because it's starting to get a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, you carry on with the good things and I'll throw the hand grenades and the bad things at you. That's what I'm here for. Remember, we have a good cop and a bad cop.
Yeah, okay. I was just going to say, I'm just going to sort of say again that I think there's lots of good things that come out of AI. So we've got to remember that as well. Like I said, the governance around AI probably needs to be sorted, but things even for farmers, they can sort of plough a field without actually being in the cab, and I think that's amazing. So all this sort of stuff. I think there's still a long way to go. I think there's a lot more can be done, but I'm still not totally convinced we're all going to be out of work.
Never. We'll never all be out of work. Never.
Right. Let me ask this one, because time's rocking on now. Let me ask this one, just change it very slightly, okay? Is previously, I think during the conversation we've had so far, all of you mentioned the idea that AI is new, it's young, maybe it's gathering space at a ridiculously large amount. However, AI is here, no doubt it's here to stay. To understand AI and to use it properly, and it is a tool, when all said and done, it's a tool to be used by us, human beings. Maybe our educational pattern should need to be changed so the youth, the youngsters, can use it properly in the future. So how are we going to persuade them to use it, and how are we going to educate them? Because we've got to start educating them now. Otherwise, we're going to be in a ridiculous situation 7-10 years down the line.
Well, Gemma, my wife, is a senior lecturer at West London University.
Get her on here.
And she's on the train, actually, so I'm sure she'll be back shortly. But ultimately, a lot of the lecturers are actually concerned because, of course, all the children, young adults are using the AI to write all their scripts and what have you. It's very, very difficult for them to know, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? So in a lot of cases, the people who don't understand it are saying this is a really bad thing. In fact, actually, my wife is thinking to herself, well, this is actually a good thing because it's giving them a framework that then they can start to think about, humor. How do they put humor into something and personalize it so it becomes real? And something, she's writing this book at the moment and, she hasn't used AI to do any of that. I know that for a fact, but, she's written the book and it's very dry, as she would say. And now she's going through and actually putting her stamp on it, her humor, to make it more about what she thinks. I can't really describe very well what
the personal touch, the personal emotional touch. But the problem that Gemma, I would have thought, and I don't know if Jeremy, you or Andy would agree with this, is the fact that as AI gets introduced, right, it reminds me of the calculator. In the early days, you had to sit down and work out sums in a certain way. Mathematics is called, right? Now they have a calculator and God knows what else on their wrists, on their phones. I mean, they don't have to know about mathematics. In teaching the young about AI, it stops them being, and that all they will pass on to their children will be, this is automated. You got 30,000 words on a dissertation on the constructiveness of, I don't know, a new development of solid concrete. They learn nothing. They just plow it into an AI machine and it comes out with all the garbage.
I think that's quite an interesting point you've made there, and it sort of brings me on to how we communicate with each other. And so,
exactly,
in lockdown, there was a lot of younger adults who didn't have any communications with people, and that was affecting their mental health and all that type of thing. But I'm thinking at the moment that could actually get worse because your social skills go because you're so busy talking to AI. Sorry, I've turned it round into a bad story.
Well, that's where I was trying to guide you, James.
All right, okay.
I totally agree with you. What happened to, you don't have to have contact. Your point about when we're all on lockdown is well made. But I wonder if so many youngsters, particularly youngsters, would have been in such a bad position during COVID if they knew how to use Zoom or Skype and just say, like we did on networking. My God, I used to look forward to networking groups on Skype, sometimes 100. Because we could all get to talk to each other, break off and have discussions.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that with AI, with the kids, for God's sake? They're just going to turn around, they won't meet and talk at breaks at school. My God, maybe they don't even have to go to school. They're not going to sit down and discuss a subject that they've all got to write about, I don't know, history, geography, mathematical problems during their lunch breaks or anything else like that, or help with each other with homework, come round to my house, we'll do the homework together like we always used to do. All that's going to disappear. All they're going to do is plug into a load of other algorithms and get a flat, dry, horrible, and I fear that that's going to become the norm. The teachers will view that very easily because they'll be marking the papers using AI.
Well, if there's no teachers, then presumably everyone will just stay at home and just go on the computer.
Well, exactly that. Exactly that. Maybe not in our lifetime, but I can see 10 or 15 years down the line that could happen, as well as all the good things. Medical research, great. But other applications you could use for fires, fire brigades, charities. I mean, the one thing that you know about charities, and I believe that every company should get involved in a charity of some sort or another, no matter how big or how small, is because it gives your time and your emotional experience, your thoughts, your logic, and your personality to help other people. With AI, that ain't going to work.
I don't think so. I think what we've got to be careful of is if you looked in the 1970s and looked at where we are now, people wouldn't have predicted where we are. And actually, we had mass unemployment in the 1970s. Now we're at full employment. And I think I have confidence in the next generation.
4.4% of the UK population that aren't unemployment probably wouldn't agree with.
I actually thought we were all supposed to be flying around in spaceships by now.
But the point is, whether it's full employment or from a technical, there is a certain level of unemployment always going on there. So if you're unemployed, don't get me wrong.
Well recovered, Andy. Make your point, mate. Sorry.
But the point is that I think the next generation is going to be creative, and we just don't know how that creation is going to come. And it's very difficult to look forward, to the future. But the one thing I do know, the past has taught us, is there's been lots of Luddites that said, oh, you can't do the technology, you can't do this. It's going to create lots of unemployment. It's going to create lots of things. But actually, every wave of machinery has required us to redeploy people across different areas of the economy, and it's required us to do that. And that's a key thing that we've got to be teaching. We've got to be flexible. But I think it's more opportunities than negatives, absolutely. And I think we've got to help the next generation make that choice and be flexible and get them out there and give them the education. I mean, my biggest concern about education, actually, Stuart, is not that they'll get AI, because I trust our teachers to get them and get through this. It's actually the lack of maths and the poor quality in maths, because actually if you can write an algorithm is just an equation, really, isn't it? Yeah. If you've got some logic of maths that you can use, that's a great skill that you have. And I think our maths attainment in the UK is well below the rest of the world. So I think we've got a lot of work to do on maths and getting that through, because that's what's going to drive AI, and that's what will drive programming, because it's a language of logic, really. And that's a basic.
So, like always, we should be in a situation of looking at the glass is half full rather than being half empty. And approach it all.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. Jeremy?
No, well, absolutely, Stuart. And we have to, but, what we're all agreed is that we can't just sort of stand still and deny that it's coming. We've got to adapt, evolve, and manage how AI takes us. And it's going to be very hard because it's all encompassing. It's not just like some sort of technical revolution in the past. It's through every bit of our life. And I think Andy's point is so right about personal privacy and everything like that, and data. And I mean, younger people are not very good with it. Yeah, they don't know, and I think that needs to be taught within schools, and more of an understanding about AI and the positives and the negatives, whereas it's just accepted that's a part of their lives. And I think it needs
to be
buried within education,
as always,
as coding does, etc.
Right. Listen, fascinated. I could carry on with you guys for a long time, but we've only got about 5 minutes to run. So let's look at all this, think about what we've said, and let's take it in turns to all our listener out there in the market, because we already refer to our audience as a listener, is if you could say something about the involvement of AI in a business, bit of encouragement or whatever, or things to look for, what would that bit of advice be? Going to drop you in that, Andy. You go first.
Thank you. I think you've got to know your basics on your business. What are you trying to achieve? Number one. What is your goal? What is your business about? How are you going to grow it? How do you want to grow it? Once you've got a very clear vision of what you want to do, it's then looking at all of those tools. And is AI one of those tools I want to use? And how does that accelerate me? Actually, is it old fashioned? Do I go and knock on doors? What is it that's going to help me with marketing? Is it a leaflet drop? Whatever. So we're obsessed with AI, and I think it's amazingly good on certain things, and it's rubbish on other things. So make sure you've got the right business for you, and you're driving it in the right way. Because I've got another client as example. He just sells motorbikes, and they're completely analog motorbikes. There's no electronics on it. His customer base is not, and if you speak to them, they are 50s men who aren't on Facebook. They're digitally off. So actually, how is AI going to help you reach them? It's a real challenge. Actually, you've got to think about experience and different other things. So it really depends on who your client, or in that case, my client, what they want to achieve and how you're going to get it, and then see whether AI is a tool for you.
Okay. James, would you like to come in on this?
I would 100% agree.
Hang on, before you go on, I want you to approach the tips that you could give from an SEO or a PR written piece of work for a company. What's the best advice you could give them in those two sectors? Don't say Gemma.
No, I would say, first of all, in answer to the initial question, there's only really one word for that, and that's strategy, which is basically what Andy was saying there. It's not good enough just to have AI. You have to know what you're going to do with it, and that is strategy.
Okay.
Yeah. Secondly, in terms of the second question you've asked there, it's absolutely essential to know your customer. And so the Logic digital marketing methodology is a proven strategy based on real data. The real data is actually keyword research. It's what your customers are actually typing in.
Okay.
So if you can identify what that keyword is and what your unique proposition is. So for example, in a title, you could say, I used to own a bed and breakfast in Aylesbury. You go in bed and breakfast Aylesbury, and then 200 meters from the town centre or whatever it is.
Okay.
So that would be my view. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And Jeremy, final word from you.
I have to go along with what the other two have said. And my business is all about putting in the brand strategy to start with.
Yep.
The better, the more you put in, the more defined what you put in, the better the result you get out using AI. So using it like that, but you've got to, as the guys have said, key purpose, define your customers, define all those things that are in the brand foundations of companies out there, and then the better stuff you put in, the better the results you get out of it.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for being on the program. We are now out of time, as we've got to come up to the top of the hour, and we've got to go through the usual sort of things. Jeremy Duncan, James Pybus, and Andy Dunkley, thanks very much for being on. I hope you enjoyed it. Do stay on the line, and I couldn't find Lady in Red to play out for dear Sharon, and I hope she's having a great evening. So I found another track by somebody called Nina, God knows who that is, but it says 99 Red Balloons. So we'll play that out, but stay on the line. Thanks for being with us on MYOB for this Thursday. Next week, usually Sharon does this bit, but next week we're going to be looking at, and this is going to be good. Am I going to cause some trouble here? Coaches and mentors. Are they worth it? And what roles should they play? Some say, coaches, you can't do it, you teach it. Who knows? But it's certainly going to be a bit lively. So do listen in, everybody out there. Thanks very much, guys, again. Hope you enjoyed being with us. And here we go, 99 balloons.